The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the webinar, Punctuation 1 here and sponsored by Avant. My name is Professor Nguyen. I'm an IELTS teacher here at Avant, helping you to prepare for the test. Some of you may have received the IELTS corners in the weeks past. I put those together each week and send them out to a distribution list of I think so about 900 people now. So but we're also doing these webinars. We started doing some of these webinars on a weekly basis. You may have attended some by Ray, who's another teacher here at IELTS, a teacher of IELTS here at Avant as well. And so this is my first webinar, and we're doing part one of the webinar, Punctuation 1. I wasn't sure exactly how long it was going to be and how much material we're going to get to cover. So this will probably be about 30 minutes or so. And we also have an exercise to do at the end, which I'll need your participation as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So as I said, we're going to look at 4 of the 8 punctuation marks in this class for punctuation 1. Now, why is punctuation so important for the IELTS test? And not just for the IELTS test, but for English in general. Now, of course, I have some students now that I am working with to get them prepared for the exam. And after examining their papers, sometimes it's, if your writing is not clear, as one reason is because of the punctuation is not so good, because good punctuation helps the reader to clearly understand your message. And if the IELTS examiner is grading your paper, the essay paper or the writing task 1 response, and they can't understand uh, what you have written, part of the reason may be because of the punctuation. I see sometimes sentences that don't have a period, or there's commas kind of sprinkled in to writing, and this affects your coherence and cohesion score on the test because it's not understandable. Good punctuation makes your makes your message much stronger, and that the IELTS person is not going to be confused of what you're trying to write. So there's 8 punctuation marks in English. And I don't know, if you ever went over these in the English class formally when you were learning English. Some of these are pretty common to what's in your own language, and maybe use the similar way. So we have the period, the comma, the colon, and question mark, exclamation point, quotation marks, parentheses, and apostrophe. Now, today, we're only going to cover these first 4, the period, the comma, the colon, and the question mark. And especially these first 2 are critical. Um, you know, so let's go ahead and get started here with the period. Now, the British call this the full stop, and really this is what it is. It's a full stop. When you put the period at the end of the sentence, you are marking the end of a complete sentence, a complete thought. Remember, a sentence has a subject and verb and expresses a complete thought. And once you've done that, you put a period at the end to mark that, to note that. For example, the young brown fox jumped over the log. All right, a very common sentence. And notice the period here um, for at the end of the sentence when you have completed your thought. Uh, Make sure each of your sentences end with a period. Also, you use a period at the end of an indirect question, not a direct question. As we're going to see, we need a question mark for that, but an indirect question. So here's an example of an indirect question. Lola asked where the pharmacy was located. So this is not a direct quote or question from Lola, but it's what we call an indirect question. Lola asked where the pharmacy was located. Still a sentence, and therefore you need the period at the end of the sentence. All right, number 2, the comma. Now this is where it really gets interesting. Students love to put commas all over the place. You need more comma control in the paragraphs and sentences that I read. And the wrong comma in the wrong place, as we're going to see, can also cause an error as well in the structure of your sentences. So be careful about that. So first of all, a comma separates words or items in a list. Here's an example sentence. I have 2 notebooks, a pen, a pencil, 3 erasers, and a bottle of glue on my school list. So notice the comma comes after each item in the series, and even including before the conjunction and. Now, there are some textbooks that will say that you do not need the comma before the and. It's pretty standard that you do use the comma before the and. So before the last item in the series, you want to make sure that you have a comma before the conjunction and then you list your last item in the series, and then, of course, the period at the end of the sentence. Now, what I was just talking about, remember, this is that final comma in the list of things is what sometimes is called the Oxford comma. This is just a fancy name for that last comma. And as I said, some grammar books show that, some grammar books do not show that. I prefer that my students put a comma there at the end of the before the last item. Let's put it that way. Before the last item in the series, and before the conjunction, that you put a comma there, because I mean you're setting off the rest of your sentence, your items with a comma. Set off the last item in the list as well with a comma before you end your sentence. All right. A comma is also used to separate a city and its state in an address. Now, this may not come up exactly on the IELTS test, but this shows you the expanded use of the comma. Comma is very powerful in English. For example, Avant is located in Castleberry, Florida. So Castleberry is the city, comma, followed by the state, which is Florida. So this is very common in addresses here in the US. Use a comma also to separate the day from the year in a date. Now, this is the US way of writing the date. In Britain and other countries around the world, of course, they usually put the day first and then the month. But in the US, we usually write the date as the month, the day, and the year. So for example, today is Wednesday, comma, June 24th, comma, 2020. So you have a comma after the day, and you have a comma between the number of the day and the year. Also, use a comma to separate two adjectives when the word and can fit between them. So sometimes you might want to have a double adjectives describing a certain noun. Let's take a look here at an example. For example, Martha is a caring, comma, compassionate friend. So remember what the rule was, that if you can put and here, when you have these double adjectives, if you have an and here, then you put the comma here. You can use the comma here to substitute for and just say Martha is a caring, compassionate friend. And that's why you have the comma here, because it's basically substituting for and in your sentence. Now, finally, this is a big error that I see a lot of times in my papers from students. Don't add a comma. So just as important it is to know when to add a comma, it's just as important to know when not to add a comma. Don't add a comma between two independent clauses, that is, sentences. It's a fancy word for sentences. Independent clauses are sentences. This is a comma splice error. What does any splice? Splice means, of course, to like put two things together. And so a comma splice will be using a comma to put two things together. In this case, the two sentences. However, a comma is not strong enough to put two sentences together, as we'll see. So, for example, incorrect. John went fishing with his friends. His friends live in Daytona. All right. So, as I said, this is too common of a common error that you see in writing, and something to look out for when you're proofreading your paper after you read the after you have written the essay or you've written writing task 1. This is a clerical error, but it also reduces your understanding of what you're trying to say. Now we can see that, of course, there's two sentences here, but the way you have it punctuated causes confusion, and this can lower your score on the IELTS test. So there are two ways to repair this error. So let's look at both of those ways to do that. For number one, the first way to repair this is, remember, go back to our first our first period, talking about the period today in our presentation. Just put a period at the end of the sentence and make sure that you start the next word in the sentence, of course, with a capital letter. You can always put a period. If you have any doubt about using the comma, you can always, if you're with the two sentences, put a period there and capitalize the next letter, and you will be able to avoid the comma splice error. Now, there's a second way to repair this as well. And in the next presentation, we talk about the semicolon. It's sometimes kind of misunderstood using it, and even among native speakers sometimes, of using the semicolon in a sentence. But a semicolon is much stronger than a comma, and a semicolon can hold together two independent clauses. For example, John went fishing with his friends, semicolon. His friends live in Daytona. And notice that you keep the letter following the semicolon in the lower case. And you often use the semicolon when you're talking about two sentences that are very closely linked together, like these two are. So you can repair the comma splice with just adding a period. and beginning the next letter with a capital letter, or you can use a semicolon and use the lowercase letter and continue on like you would in a regular sentence. All right, now the colon. Use a colon after a complete sentence to introduce a list of items. All right, we've already looked at a list of items, so let's go back here. For example, you don't deserve a high grade. You're late for class, don't turn in your homework, and failed the last exam. So usually a colon is going to be used for more than just like we were looking at earlier, these short items in a series. Usually a colon, you're trying to uh, make a point clear in the sentence, and you also are using sentences that come after or longer clauses that are going to follow in a series like we have here. So you have the semicolon, and then after each of the items in a series, and here's our Oxford comma, you are going to use commas to set them off, and then of course a period at the end of your sentence. So the colon is could be quite powerful in your writing, but it's not used as much as the others, of course, like a comma or a period. Now, a colon is also used after the greeting of a name in a business letter. I know it makes you seem kind of strange now, but in the world of emails, that, wow, who's going to write a business letter? But if you ever take the IELTS general test, in writing task 1 there, you have to write a letter, and it might have to be a formal letter to someone. So let's look here at the greetings in a business letter. For example, Dear Mrs. Smith, all right? And we have the colon that follows her. Now, if it's a friendly letter, it would be a comma. But since this is a more formal letter that you would be writing to someone, then you use a colon. So that's another use of the colon in English punctuation. All right, the question mark, our last stop here of reviewing the punctuation marks, the question mark. And this is rather straightforward. Use a question mark after a direct question. So earlier we had an example of an indirect question that was when that was stated as a sentence, right? And we used a period. But when you have a question word, you have a direct question. For example, did you buy a new iPhone yesterday? So this is a direct question to another person. You're not reporting what the person asked. This is a direct question to them, and you're waiting for a response. So did you buy a new iPhone yesterday? And notice the question mark. Uh, I'm not sure exactly where maybe a question mark would fit in with the IELTS test. You're not writing narratives or dramas or a novel, for example, where you would use maybe a question. But anyway, it is one of the punctuation marks, and it marks the last one that we're looking at for today, the question mark. Okay. So here we have an exercise, and if you noticed, I put a handout that you could download, a PDF of this uh, presentation. And you can look on there or look here onto the screen. And what you need to do here in the exercise is to add the correct punctuation. So let's see here. Let's see who's participating today. All right. Now, does someone want to take take a chance here and tell us what is the correct way to punctuate question number 1? You should be able to raise your hand. Let's see. Oh, all right. Let's see here. Question. All right, I'm kind of getting used to this here. So you should be able to see the questions on the screen here. Let's see, someone have their hand raised. Let's see. Okay. Another, okay. Thaddeus. Thaddeus. Oh, Thaddeus, I don't see a microphone for you there. Oh, okay. See, Mike.
To
Hello,
add
Mike.
a previous. Hi, hello. Hi, Vin.
Hello. So how would you correct this first sentence here?
Just to add the period at the end of the sentence.
And what else?
Uh,
And are you sure you need a period at the end? So
yeah.
you're calling out, you say Jake, all right? So you need a comma. Jake,
A comma before.
Jake, wasn't watching that ball game exciting?
Oh, so it's a question mark.
A question mark. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is this is a question to Jake. You're asking the question directly to him. So it would be a question mark here for at the end of the sentence. So let's take a quick
Okay.
look here. So Jake, comma, wasn't watching that ball game exciting? Question mark.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right. Number 2, he needs 3 items from the store: a gallon of milk, a dozen of eggs, and 2 bottles of tea. All right. How would we pronounce? How would we punctuate this one? Pamela? Pamela, can you unmute yourself? Okay. I can't hear you. I don't know. Anyone else have their hand up and their microphone on? Margarita? I think everyone.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Hi. Who is this?
Yeah, Pamela.
Oh, Pamela? Okay.
Mm.
Welcome, Pamela. And how would you punctuate this sentence here?
Oh, he needs 3 items from the store, colon, a gallon of milk, comma, a dozen of eggs, comma, and 2 bottles of tea, period.
Okay, very good. So we have a break here and a list of long items here. We have over 3 items here in a series. And so we need a comma after each of the items, plus the Oxford comma here before the last item. Very good, Pamela. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 3. What is wrong with my car, Mac? All right. Who wants to answer this one? Who can help us out with this one here? Josephine, can you help us?
Yes.
Hello, Josephine. How can you help us here?
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Um, you have to put a comma after the car and you put a question mark after Mac. So that would be, what is wrong with my car, comma, Mac, question mark.
Very good. What is wrong with my car, comma, Mac? It's similar to the question we had here with Jake at the beginning, except we had Jake at the beginning of the sentence, and in this case we have Mac at the end of the sentence. So very good, very good. So this is a direct question to Mac. All right, Josephine, thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
okay. All right. Number 4. The sun, the moon, and the stars are so brilliant tonight. Okay? Who can help us out with this one? Okay, Margarita, are you back? Hello, Margarita? Okay, I don't hear you. Let's see. Let's see here. Vincent? Let's see. Vincent, are you out there?
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Hello, Vincent. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
All right, good. So number 4, we need some help with number 4. What can you do for us?
So it will be the sun, comma, the moon and the stars are so brilliant tonight, period.
Okay, and where else do we need a comma? We need a comma in one other place here. Where is that?
The sun, comma, the moon, comma, and the stars are so brilliant tonight, period.
All right. Okay, and yes, don't forget the period at the end there. All right, good. The sun, the moon, and the stars are so brilliant tonight. Very good. Very good. All right, thank you very much, Vincent. All right, and the last one, number 5. Are you studying for your math test, Edward? Aha, all of these questions for all, we have all of these questions here and all of these people that we're addressing. Who wants to take on the last one? Jidalyn, are you here with us? Hi, Jidalyn.
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you today?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. So can you help us out here with the last one?
Yes. Are you studying for your math test, comma, Edward, and question mark?
Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, very good. So this is similar to the number 3 question we had here, and kind of as like we're saying, like a reverse of what we had for the number 1. So we put the person's name at the end of the sentence, and this is a direct question to them, so we have the question mark. All right, very good, very good. Thank you very much, Jidalyn. Okay, so that is our presentation for today. So we reviewed over, let's look here, I should have put it at the end here, but let's go back real quick. So today we looked at the period, the comma, the colon, and the question mark. All right, so this is the first presentation for the punctuation marks, and stay tuned for the second presentation, where we review over the exclamation point, the quotation marks, parentheses, and apostrophe. All right. So thank you very much for being with me today. That's it for our presentation. Make sure that that you have picked up the handouts that I put out there. Thank you for participating in the poll today. So I see that most people are, before we go here, I see that most people are planning to take the IELTS test within the next 3 months. So continue to study every day. Continue to read the IELTS Corner that I send out to you on Thursdays, and look out for the next Avant presentation. Thank you for being here today, and good luck, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.